Hello and welcome to the lecture series on monetary economics. In the previous class, I have talked about or gave you a sense of or introductory sense of what are cooperative banks and how they are arranged differently from your regular banking institutions, but still fall in the ambit of the institutional or organized segment of banking institutions in the Indian context. In today's class, we are going to just take a superficial view of the structure of cooperative banking in India. So whenever I am talking about cooperative banking in India, when you look at it from an aerial view or a bird's eye view, you see that there are two distinctions made whenever we are talking about cooperative banking. One is with respect to non-agricultural credit and the other is with respect to agricultural credit. Now, agricultural credit meaning thereby holds more importance because majority of the structure evolves in this segment, and as a result of that, obviously on the basis of term, it is further divided into or subdivided into short-term credit as well as medium and long-term credit. Now, this short-term credit deserves again our attention because it is a pyramidal structure which evolves from the state and goes down till the grassroots level. And when you look at the long term side of it or the medium term side of it, it is with respect to land development banks, which I shall be talking about. But first, let us look at this pyramidal structure, which is the agricultural side and which is the short term side of cooperative banking credit. And this pyramid, at the top or apex, you have the state cooperative bank. Since cooperation is a state subject, so if at all you have studied politics, you know what are there are certain things which are listed in the state list as well as certain in the central list, and there are certain subjects which are lying in the ambit of both the center and the state. They are called as the subjects of concurrent list. And since cooperation being a state subject, we have state cooperative banks at the apex called as SCBs or state cooperative banks. Thereafter, at the intermediate level or the district level, we also have central cooperative banks, popularly called as CCBs, and at the grassroots level we have primary agricultural credit societies or PACS. So this is how you can look at the short-term credit side of agricultural credit under cooperative banking structure. Furthermore, if at all this the short term is not sufficient and people want to go for medium term or long term loans, then we have specialized institutions called as land development banks in India since 1929, and these are arranged at A, the state level, and B, the primary level, which is the grassroots level, called as, if at all it is at the state level, it is called as state land development banks or SLDBs, and if at all it is at the primary level, they are called as primary land development banks. So this is how the two-tier structure can be seen with respect to agricultural credit under cooperative banking for medium and long term, and it is a three-tier structure if at all you look at agricultural credit under cooperative credit banking at the shorter term. Now, another unique thing about this three-tier structure is you can see credit move in both these directions, meaning thereby the state cooperative banks will give credit to the central cooperative banks, and the central cooperative banks will give credit to the primary agricultural credit societies. Now this flow is majorly dominated in these two flows because there's a lot of fund which is coming from the state towards the grassroots level. Vis-a-vis, there is another flow which is going, that is from primary agricultural credit societies. It is moving towards this in terms of savings and things like that, but that flow is less because the quantum of money which moves in this direction is more with respect to that. So this is again another unique feature of the same. Now, whenever there is a state cooperative bank, it will not directly lend to primary agricultural credit societies. In some cases that might happen, but it first lends to central cooperative banks and from there it goes downwards. Now these banks are, the state and the center are not effectively giving it to the members of primary agricultural society. They are giving it to the primary agricultural society, and the primary agricultural society disburses it to the members of that particular society. In some cases it is also given to non-members, but that is very rare. So this is how you can look at the flow of credit when it is shorter term under the agricultural credit under cooperative banking, how a three-tier system is actually functioning in the in the credit system for shorter term. On the contrary, you have land development banks for medium as well as longer term, and these banks are catering to the needs of agricultural credit for medium and long term. So I hope this idea is pretty much, the non-agricultural segment doesn't dominate that much. That is why I'm giving more attention towards the agricultural segment, which is in primary sense is very important as far as short-term credit is concerned in the rural parts of the country, through this 3-tier system, as well as medium and long term credit is concerned through this 2-tier system given by the state land developmental banks as well as the primary land developmental banks. So I hope the skeleton of the cooperative banking structure in India is pretty much clear. In the upcoming classes, we'll talk about all these institutions in greater details and look at how the structure of cooperative banking looks like in the Indian context. So please stay tuned. Thank you.